Hi, everybody. Welcome to ComicCon.com, your weekly, daily, every time comic experience online. This is where you can come and hang out and have a good time. We cover all your pop culture news, and today I am incredibly excited. I'm getting to talk about Maverick's new book, Student Government. The creators are in the house. This is going to be a fantastic conversation. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
This book is fantastic. It is one of those things where I got a chance to read it and brought to tears. A couple moments in the book like really caught me up. Um, where did this come from? Like, where did this idea get planted? Because I have a lot to ask and a lot to say about it, and I really want to dig into it. This is going to be rad. So, where'd you guys come up with this concept?
So originally, it began life as a spin-off of Public Relations, which is a book that Lilah and I did for First Comics starting back in 2015. And that was a mature reader's book that was our pitch for it was basically Princess Bride meets Arrested Development. And this was going to be kind of a tangent off of that. And we tossed it around for several years and tried to kind of refine it and iterate on it for a while. And eventually, when we felt like it was getting to a point where it might need some pretty pictures, we turned to Joe, who we had been trying to work on something with for ever, and said, "Hey, we have a book we think you'd be great for. It does take place at a school, and we know you just did 50 issues of Morning Glories, so this might not be your thing." But Joe said,
I've known Dave and Lilah so long. I was like, of course I'll read it. I would love to read it, and fell in love with it immediately. It was such a hilarious pitch, and I got exactly the tone and the characters. I felt like that. I got that immediately. It was like that kind of bolt of lightning sort of experience, and yeah, it was great. I mean, that was still early days, and we kind of did some rough kind of sketches and stuff, and pitched it around. And I've known Mike Martz for a number of years, and Mike is always so great to me, and is like, please send me whatever you have. And so I sent him this, and he sent it to Lauren Heisusen, who works for him, and she totally got this as well. And she's been like the most number one cheerleader, I guess, if we're going to keep using school puns, for this book. And she's, yeah, and that kind of that's where it went into overdrive at that point in terms of development.
I've been lucky enough to work with Lauren on a project, and she is amazing editor and just a fantastic human being. So I was super stoked to see her name attached to the project. Now, Lilah, personal story time for a second. When my best friend's little sister was leaving school and finding her way in the world and really finally being able to express who they were, they were kind of really shutting in the house, and like they lived with us as a roommate, and it was a thing. And I was going to the comic shop every week, and the first outing after quite some time that they went out with me on was to come to the shop the day that Lumberjanes dropped #1, and that was huge. And it would just, then that was the trip, right? I'm going to feel comfortable in my own skin. I'm going to go out and pick this book up. And that was so powerful for me to be able to experience that as Amy was doing that. It was fantastic, and it was so cool. And I had a bit of an emotional stumbling moment with this book because of how powerful it was and how weird it hit me in the chest. I don't know if I was too young for like the Breakfast Club kind of movies. That's supposed to be like the vibe, right? All of those films are supposed to be that seminal experience. I'm a disabled person. I use crutches, full-time wheelchair user at this point. And I never had that kind of school experience. For me, it was like a bunch of misfits, friends or family, but it was never that way. And then as I'm pouring through these pages, I got to have that really cool, like, a little bit shaking moment of this book is so powerful, and that friendship is family through line is in this story. And I mean, I'm not I'm not young by any stretch, but this felt like it was speaking to the core of me. And I could also immediately give this to teenage kids that, my friends have kids. I could hand this off to them and have them almost have that same experience. This book is so friggin' powerful. Did you set out to tell it all as like this big story, one graphic novel, or was it issues that you decided later to collapse? How did that storytelling process kind of go?
We set out to tell kind of an even bigger story, and we made a smaller story because we realized that it wasn't so much about the story as it was about these characters. And when we decided to do it as a young adult novel, we knew that that meant that we were going to be sort of introducing some young people to the idea of college, right? And I think when I was a young reader, one of my favorite things about books was how they could show you like what you were headed for as you were growing. Like we always kind of wanted to read books that were for older kids than we were, because you wanted to see like what was next, get a preview of the next stage of life. And I feel like that's kind of what this book does for college. And I don't think anyone has ever had the college experience that the kids in this book have. But I think we sort of cherry picked some really great experiences from both mine and Dave's college experiences, and cut some out of whole cloth as well. Yeah, I think distilling that college experience for someone who maybe hadn't been to college, or who was thinking about, should I go to college? That was definitely in there for me. I don't know. What about you, Dave?
Yeah, I think, the best books that I read when I was young were aspirational. They were about people who were slightly older having experiences that maybe lay in my future. And that was very much what we were attempting to do here. I don't think that we said earlier, but it bears saying that it was Maverick's idea to make this a young adult book. We pitched it as a mature reader's book, in the same vein as Public Relations. And they were the ones who said, look, this has all the through lines of a young adult story. It's got found family. It has a conflict with a parent. It has so much that we think would make it compelling for a young adult audience. Could you erase, 3 jokes that are a little bit racy and
only keep one F word?
Yeah. Which we wound up not even using that one F word. We're saving it so we can have 2 in the sequel.
I love that. The jokes are so smart too. Like that, I read a lot of, because I look at a lot of Maverick books, I look at a lot of Paper Cuts books. Like they're all fantastic. And I sometimes, you're like, oh, I can kind of see the age range that this audience is written for. But I, at conventions where I'm tabling, or if I'm, with my friends' kids, some of these kids are really tuned in. And that was one of the things I appreciated so much about the dialogue and the writing in this book, was it doesn't pander. Like it's not sort of written like a smash the like button, blah, blah, blah. It feels so lived in and genuine. Like it's beautifully written. Like everything feels authentic. I love that about it. It's so cool.
I think there's a couple of things that I've learned from writing for kids in the past, and I think that Dave kind of knew intuitively about, from the writing end, which is that you can't try to talk like kids. You can't, you've got to talk to kids like they're adults, because that's how kids see themselves as people. They don't see themselves as kids, right? So that's super important. And, giving it that lived-in quality, I think it's a question of using voices that feel real to you, and not affecting. Yeah, kids, I never wanted to read anything that felt pandering to me. I wanted to read stuff that was for adults. 100%. And so that's what we kind of are trying to provide here, I think, for the aspirational young reader, as Dave put it.
I think there's a brilliant line in here that really struck a chord with me, and I feel like I wish I had it as a poster. And Gene says it, one of the characters in the book says it, who has the best hair in the world. I got to put that out there. It's fantastic. As someone who immediately, once I could break free from a conservative family, blue was my color for many years. And it's, I think I actually have it written down here. That money is the be all end all, to the point that you're willing to literally pave over memory lane for money, when they're talking about how people are going to destroy those places and the world that you make these memories in, just to kind of chase that dollar. And it felt so timely and like important, and just like it made me take a breath when I was reading it and like slow down and just like kind of refocus. And I think it's such a powerful message. I mean, there's a lot of powerful messages. I wanted to be a fire truck when I was a kid too. And so, you know, when you all read that, listeners at home, you'll get the joke. But you know, there's a lot of really cool stuff that's in this book that have those quiet moments interspersed between the humor. And I think what you've created is so powerful. And kind of important just to the conversation. Now you said sequel. Are we thinking there's more, or is that just a possibility? Or
I'll come back to the word aspirational.
Fair enough. Let us see how this book does. I think it'll do incredibly well. It's so rad. Like,
It's early
I will
days.
say that the ending of the book, like the surprise at the end of this book, was supposed to be the setup for the book. So we have tons more story to tell if we get the chance.
Yeah, we'd love to do it. We're all on board.
I love that, because not spoiling anything from an artistic perspective, genius. The beginning and the end and the way everything bookends when you like that call, chef's kiss, like that's perfect callback. Like that was clean. Again, I'm not telling any of the listeners what I'm talking about. You get to all go pick up this beautiful title and read it yourselves, because it's totally worth it. It's such a fun ride.
Thank you.
Now, were any of you in student government as kids? Was that a thing? Like,
I in ninth grade, this is such a perfect encapsulation of who I was as a kid. In ninth grade, they were asking if people wanted to run for a class, student government, and I stood up and I said, as you all know, I am a genius, and therefore it only makes sense for me to be your president. And I got exactly one vote, which was mine.
At least you believed in yourself. That was better than some of us could have mustered. So, I mean, that's, you know, that's a message in itself right there. And now this book, hardback, fantastic, right? Will be available in digital format as well, so people can read it on e-reader.
No, it just came out a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
They moved it around a little bit, but the 25th was our official release date of March. So
fantastic. So that you can pick it up now in big box stores. You get it at your local comic shops, order it online. That's so much fun. Maybe have your library order a couple of copies. Always good to keep those in the library for sure. Yeah.
I will say, Joe and I yesterday were at the Texas Library Association convention, and the response to it was really enthusiastic. People seemed very excited when we were telling them kind of what was between the covers and who the characters were and what the story was and the message was. The response was really positive. So
that's most of the things about a book.
Yeah, pretty much all. They weren't just judging it by the cover, believe it or not. Yeah, I mean, the cover is fantastic. Don't get me wrong.
Great.
Oh, yeah.
Very little of the book actually takes place on the water, though.
That's true. Let's put that in the sequel.
Yeah. There is some beach moments that are particularly heartwarming. But yeah, not a lot goes down on the sea for sure. I do like the nod to historical paintings on the cover, though. I thought that was kind of a genius little move there. Very academically minded. That was clever shape language being put into play.
Did a lot of like ideas, like thumbnail ideas, based around just like iconic American imagery, Uncle Sam and so on and so forth, and like
Iwo Jima,
Iwo Jima. But that was the one that like worked the best. Maybe we could rework another one of those ideas for one of the sequels. So yeah.
I like all this sequel talk. This is fantastic.
I want to know about these sequels.
I'm getting really.
There's so much more story to tell. I want to know about Professor Pagemaker. What? Mostly because with the blue hair came the total rebellion of a society that I had grown up in. Right. And a sort of if I'm going to live in a car and be a little sonic boom with dirt on it, I'm going to be as punk rock as possible in my early 20s. So the anarchy t-shirt, the jacket with studs on it, the paper, all of that, right. The political rhetoric, because then I was reading anything that I wasn't allowed to read before. I really like this character. Was he inspired by anybody that you guys know, or was it just sort of a woven together creation?
His original inspiration was that I had been reading a collection of old articles and interviews with Depeche Mode, and so
That's
he's
fantastic.
visually based. At least the starting point
On
was
Martin Gore.
a modern day Martin Gore.
If Martin Gore was like an old man or older,
Yeah,
or a little
which
bit
he
older.
is now.
Yeah.
But one of the articles, we didn't actually wind up using it in the book, I don't think. But one of the articles kept quoting his laugh, and they would write it out, "Hjurg, hjurg, hjurg." And for
We thought that was hysterical.
whatever reason, that was the funniest thing I'd ever heard. And I was like, we have to have a professor, and he has to laugh like this. And so that's how Pagemaker started. The name came from Lilah.
Yeah, his name is the name of the software product that I used to create my high school newspaper.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Called it Pagemaker. Yeah.
And then Joe, we gave Joe the Martin Gore idea, and he ran with it.
Yeah.
And came up with just, I think, the perfect visual of this sort of over the hill British expat, anarchist professor.
He turned out to be incredibly fun to write, wouldn't you say, Dave?
Yeah. I would think most of his dialogue came from you, but when I did, and I'm saying I think you did a great job with him. When the scenes of him that I did have a hand in, I had a fantastic time writing him. He's Martin Gore, you know.
There's just so much about him that I love, and I honestly, this probably sounds silly, but like, remember the vinyl non-action figure characters that you could like order in previews back in like the early 2000s? Like they had bone figures and stuff like that. I want like a little vinyl figure of him for my desk. I just like
that too now.
Right? Yeah. It just there's something about the character, and once you read the book, and in my head he sounds, because I've seen Rollins do a lot of spoken word, and he just has that sort of gruff edge in his voice, and so that's how he sounded to me when I was reading him. Now there's more of an English vibe now that you've explained the sort of the origin seeds of the character, but it doesn't make me love him any less. He's just fantastic.
Is correct.
Yeah. There's no wrong way to read a Pagemaker.
Yeah.
It's just, and that I think speaks to kind of the joy of this book, is that there's so much that I took out. I mean, I think I've probably read it 5 or 6 times. There's so much that I've taken out of it where I'm just like, I don't read and review stuff that I don't want to. Like, I have the luxury of being like kind of cherry picking titles, and I'm like, I think this is going to be cool. And then if I read it, I'm like, oh yeah, I really liked that. Or I'm like, I'm like 20 pages in. I don't know if this is my vibe. There's other people in the bullpen. Somebody else might have a good time with this, right? I think I was probably a good 60 pages into this before I even realized I hadn't taken a breath. Like, I was like, oh, this is fantastic. Like, I mean, it gripped me in a way that like I didn't have those experiences that you see on TV, right? I had the experience where I was the kid in the very special episode. You know, they wheel in, they teach you a message, they wheel out. You never see them in Bayside again. Like, that's me. That's it. I get that one scene in any whatever it may be, but that's been my life experience. And reading this was really one of the times, you know, because for me, college was like freedom, right? I had finally just shaken off shackles, and I paid my own way and was doing my own thing. And like, it was the first sort of experience of like coming into myself, like kind of knowing who I was, or figuring out who I was, because I don't even know if I still know who I am now. But reading this felt way more, and I don't know if it was comic format, maybe that had a lot to do with it. I love comic books, but I also think it had a lot to do with the way that you all crafted the characters, the visual look of the book. Like, it just feels so genuine and like authentic to sort of the experience I had, or at least the idealized experience that I had. You know, looking back, I'm like, oh, there were fun times. I'm sure there was warts and all, but it's one of those things where like you read this and just the parental conflict, and there's an emotional weight to it, and there's relationships, and there's that found family through line, and all of it is, you know, taking a step back from like wacky Anton, but like it is such a powerful piece. and it speaks kind of to the heart of finding yourself, and in a way that doesn't feel like it's pandering. And I think what you've created here is truly art. And I think everybody should, at least pick it up and give it a shot, because I don't care if you're 40 or 14. I think you could probably learn something about yourself if you really read this book and take what it says to heart. It's a powerful piece of work. And you all have done something really awesome here. No, thank you. You guys made it. I just had the joy of reading it.
But that's really flattering and really touching to hear that. I mean, I think sometimes we think we're just making jokey jokes and drawing pretty pictures, but to hear that it really affected you as much as it has, that really means a lot. Thank you.
It does, because we put a lot into the books. Dave and I, blood, sweat, and tears, writing the thing, and we really enlisted Joe's help from the very beginning with this book, and wanted it to be something truly special. And Joe was instrumental in doing that, at every step of the process. So I really want to give him a shout out.
Thank you, Lilah.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, the whole creative team, Michael Wiggum on the colors, that the warehouse party scene is one of the most gorgeously colored scenes of any book I've ever worked on. I keep coming back to it, and the choices that he made in there. And then, Simon and Charles on the lettering. It's, I said this previously, but when you're doing comedy, so much of it is about timing and pacing and getting it exactly right. And when you're doing it in comics, that means the lettering, and it has to be perfect. And they did such a perfect job of it. Like every bit of this book came together. And
honestly, huge props to Mad Cave and to Maverick, who just did an incredible job at every stage. Like, I've been so impressed working with them.
The whole experience has been just fantastic from beginning to end.
I love them to pieces. I think they're, of the comic companies that are out there, Mad Cave, Maverick, Papercut, they're fantastic people, top down. Like it starts at the top and goes all the way down. That whole group is wonderful over there. And I think all the creators that they're speaking to, I think the books that they're putting out are timely and valuable to the cultural conversation in some really rad ways. And this, in no way, shape, or form is this book anything but that. And I know you guys are super swamped and super busy, and I appreciate you being willing to sit down and talk to me about it. Because again, I very rarely get to do these, and I only do them on books I really, really love. So this is a big deal for me, and I really appreciate you all for taking the time. Before we wrap up, can you tell our listeners and viewers where they can keep up with all of you? What social medias aren't on fire these days that you might be on?
I'm on Blue Sky. That's where the only place I can be found at this point. And that's at lilahtsturges.com.
I'm also on Blue Sky. If you want to be updated approximately 3 times a year on my doings, I'm at Dave Justus, Blue Sky Social.
I'm also on Blue Sky, but I'm on Instagram and still Facebook too. But it's Super Joe, SUPAJOE.
Super Joe.
I'm a little bit more active than Dave, just a little bit. So.
Soup song.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you all. Comic-Con is on Blue Sky, as am I, Anton the Storyteller, and that is where we hang out a lot. This link will go up there, and also on our Instagram when it pops, site and socials as well. Again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for making something so cool. I think it's going to help a lot of people, or at least give them something rad to think about. And thank you all for your time. Until next time, everybody, we'll talk to you soon.